Recently, YouTuber Anthony Padilla released a video called "I Spent a Day with Wiccans Who Used My Body as a Vessel to Cast Spells." Now, I'm not too familiar with Anthony's content, but I do remember a video he did with Ryan Trahan where Ryan opened up about his Christian faith and seemingly planted some seeds with Anthony about Jesus. But is Anthony's open-mindedness to any and every person's spiritual beliefs gonna get him in trouble dealing with the demonic and the spiritual realms? In this video, we'll be reacting to Anthony partaking in Wiccan rituals, how witches cast these spells, some of the overlap with their ideology and other popular mainstream beliefs, and my ultimate concern for Anthony and how this may affect his spiritual health.
Ruslan.
All right, so I'm not sure if it's because Halloween time is around the corner or what exactly, but there's a lot of this sort of content coming out right now about Wiccans and witches and warlocks. And Anthony Padilla, who's a fairly big creator with almost 7 million subscribers, released this video about him spending a day with Wiccans and having his body used as a vessel to cast spells. So, we're gonna jump right into this. I'm gonna give you guys some of my thoughts, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. If you're here live, make sure you hit that like button for the algorithm, and make sure you're subscribed. Almost 50% of you guys who watch this channel regularly are not subscribed. Let's jump in.
Generally speaking, I refer to myself as a Wiccan priestess.
Most of the time, I just reach for witch.
Witch.
Witch is such a broad term these days that when I'm in the company of other practitioners, it's more helpful to define myself as Wiccan.
What is the biggest misconception about Wiccans?
I guess it's still the old one that we're involved with Satan or something, but I'm sorry to say to those who believe that they are completely wrong.
There's some watching right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, darling, but you're completely wrong. Satan is an...
So, notice out the rip how there is an instant minimization of anything involved with Satan, and then what she says next is pretty interesting because it's a kind of dismissal of Christian concern. Listen.
Wrong.
There's some watching right now.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, darling, but you're completely wrong. Satan is an Abrahamic figure. He exists within the pages of the Bible. He is their projection of evil, and they need to deal with him instead of projecting him onto other people, especially us.
You are.
So, according to them, Satan is their projection, meaning our Christian Abrahamic projection of evil, and we're taking the idea of evil, projecting it on Satan from the Abrahamic faiths, and that we need to not project it on them. So the entire thing is kind of undermining the idea that Satan is even real, okay?
One of America's first public witches.
I am.
People were nervous about coming out as witches after the Salem witch trials in America. That makes no sense. Why would people be concerned about coming out as a witch?
I know. Why are you so stressed, right?
I've been to Salem personally. Something important to note is the Salem witch trials happened a long time before the 80s there, Mr. Anthony. But that's neither here nor there.
What do Wiccans believe?
We don't necessarily have a unified moral code, for example, or a unified belief about what happens when we die or what gods are like.
Did you catch that there? We don't have a unified belief. There's a direct correlation to a very popular worldview that is presented with these Wiccan witches that we will address here in a moment, but just make sure you're paying attention because there's some things she says very clearly that basically says, hey, we don't have a objective worldview, a black and white worldview, a moral worldview, right? That it's subjective.
There tends to be ritual stuff, what our tools are, how we frame our liturgy. What you do is more important to us, and what you do reflects your beliefs.
When people hear...
What you do is more important, but what you do reflects your beliefs. Yeah, it does, right? So she's saying that the action of these rituals is more important than any framework that holds them together.
Witchcraft, they think satanic rituals.
There are no devils and demons, and there's definitely no Satan. He is entirely a Christian character. He's their figure who personifies evil.
Can you tell us about the...
Another minimization of any idea of evil. Now, it's not difficult for even, I would say, folks who aren't Christians to look out in the world and say, hey man, this world's pretty jacked up. There's some really foul stuff going on. It seems like anything that isn't good is the opposite, which is bad, which is the devil, which is Satan, which is bad things are happening in the world. I think it's very clear that if you're looking around to what is happening, it's generally true that there's evil in the world, regardless on what worldview you hold. So I find that very interesting that it's a consistent pushback of there is no evil, there's no devil, there's no Satan. Let's keep watching.
history of Wicca, where it came from, how long it's been around.
The 1940s in England, there is this popular movement to start looking toward magic and the magical traditions of that area. And there's this guy named Gerald Gardner who comes out and he starts writing popular books. He has a tabloid presence, and basically he comes out and tells people, hey, I was initiated into this surviving witch cult. I've gotten permission to write about it and share it with the world. People start seeking him and various associates of his out for initiation. And eventually he initiates folks in the US, his books make it over there, and people begin spreading his tradition in the United States. The particular tradition that I follow goes back to that dude. He brought people.
So it goes back to a dude.
And they brought people in, I'm down here somewhere.
Like a pyramid scheme.
Yes, exactly. No, I'm stopping there. Absolutely not.
Like a pyramid scheme, they laugh, but they say it's not like a pyramid scheme. Oh, okay. Multi-level affiliate marketing? Are they on their Andrew Tate? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Wicca a modern religion, or is it ancestral?
It wasn't called Wicca, but it existed more than 5,000 years ago. It was the indigenous wisdom tradition of Europe.
We're going to get into the actual demonstration here in a second.
If I were a skeptic, I might hear things like, there was a guy at this point sometime within recent history that found this thing and then started spreading his word, and then people started becoming initiated into it. I would think cult.
Yeah. And that word was used. I think cult is one of those words where we use it usually to mean this religion over here that we don't like. People used to write about the cult of...
No. Cult means that it is a perversion of a religion that's anchored on usually a massive personality and has no ties to any type of historic faith, and definitely no ties to a direct connection to Christianity, right? And so when you have a Joseph Smith that comes on the scene and all of a sudden has new revelation, when you have other folks that have new revelation, it's not just used as a derogatory term to talk about religions we don't like. There's false religions, but a cult is taking something and anchoring it on a personality, usually on a charismatic personality. Think of Jim Jones, think of this guy they're talking about. So is it just, oh, we just don't like what you do? Or is it like, well, you guys kind of have your entire thing formulated on a person that's not that long and there's no ancient tie-in to anything but this guy who claims to have this divine wisdom, divine insight. So I don't know if it's inappropriate to call it. Obviously, it's the occult, but I don't know if it's inappropriate to say cult as well.
In the United States, this idea of devotion to something, adherence to something. So it's really only in very recent decades that the word cult has come to have this blanket kind of negative connotation. But amongst my coven mates, yeah, we use the word cult.
Most people, when they hear...
So they... Hold on. I gotta pull this back. That was amazing. So listen to what she says.
Blanket kind of negative connotation. But amongst my coven mates, yeah, we use the word cult.
Most people...
It's not a cult. I mean, I promise you, it's not a cult. It's really not a cult. A cult is a negative, derogatory term used to attack religions people don't like. It's really not a cult. We use the word cult, though. Huh? All right, let's keep going. Wow, that was great.
They hear cults, assume that it means unquestioning devotion to a belief system that was taught.
And that definitely is not who we are. If we could be said to have a central virtue, it would be autonomy and personal authority. My devotion is to my tradition and to my gods. It's not to other witches, and it's certainly not to a founder.
Do you cast spells? Do you?
Okay. Now, did you guys catch that? Personal autonomy and personal authority. My devotion is to my gods. Okay, so the framing around this is personal autonomy, personal authority, and where do we know there's overlap? And it's going to get more and more clear and overt with the overlap. The overlap with this is something that a lot of people ascribe to, something that a lot of people like and align themselves to, and it's everywhere. Again, there's no good or bad, there's no devil. The Christianity is wrong, right? And there's no objective right or wrong, and there's no type of allegiance to anything but your personal authority, your personal autonomy, and the gods, which in this case are kind of whatever they want to be. Friends, this is New Age. This is a direct correlation to New Age, which is there's one consciousness, there's no objective right or wrong, you can kind of do what thou will. There's a strong overlap, and we just had Pastor Mike on to talk about in terms of some of the stuff that we're seeing with witches and the New Age, and there's a strong correlation there in the worldview, and New Age is preached everywhere, right? The consciousness, your consciousness, one with God. You are one with God. You are God. Russell Brand flat out said. Eckhart Tolle. There's a lot of overlap with this New Age stuff, and it's clear as day. And what do people want? People want to have personal authority. They want the appeal of seeming religious without any of the accountability to any particular religion, especially a true religion that calls all men to repent, turn, and believe. I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want to seem spiritual, but I want to write my own rules. I want to do what I feel. I want to do whatever feels good, but at the same time, I want to feel virtuous and feel like I have some degree of morality on what I'm doing. This is the New Age, friends. So it's clear as day. I want to be able to manifest things with my thoughts. I want to be able to speak things into existence. It's all correlated, right? I want to be able to do rituals to create realities. It's all the same thing. Okay, so let's keep watching this.
Magic.
Magical experiences.
Oh yeah,
Here we go.
from the very beginning. If you ask most sort of young witches, they'll tell you that magic is the art of manipulating supernatural forces to manifest what you want.
She said it right there. Magic is the art of manipulating supernatural forces to manifest what you want. Where do we hear that word manifest? We hear that word manifest inside of New Age circles. They're trying to manifest supernatural realities to get what you want. You want $1 million, you got to manifest things with your mind and vision boards and visualizations. In their case, they're casting spells with objects to get what you want. It's the same exact thing.
Not so much. I mean, that's kind of an old model.
What is the magic actually?
The magic is the flow of the sacred from energy into embodiment.
The magic is the flow from the sacred from energy to embodiment. We talked about this, Link to Bless God video, where we talked about the idea of the New Age and how it misuses the word energy. Energy, friends, is not something mystical or magical. Energy is the capacity to do work, usually connected with work, meaning motion. Energy is the capacity to create motion and do work. I did a whole breakdown on this. Okay, energy is not your mind manifesting this and that and the other. Okay, that's no. Your emotions are not energy. You could feel inspired and do nothing about it. Your thoughts are not energy. You could have a thought and not do anything about it. You could not have a thought and do the opposite of the thought. Okay? So that the idea of energy, manifesting spiritual energy, it's all the same googly goggly gosh, okay? Let's keep going.
The magic is the flow of the sacred from energy into embodiment.
From energy into embodiment. She's misusing that word energy there. That's not what the word energy means. Okay, energy in this case is she's using it however she wants to use it. Okay, so it's not accurate. She's not using it accurately.
Things interconnected, and that flow of connection, that relationship, that energy that moves back and forth between us and the plants, which
between us and the plants.
A little more water and a little more sun.
And she throws jabs at his plants. Okay, so what do we know to be true based on the scriptures? We know that there is divine and God, okay, and then there's humans. Humans are flawed, God is perfect, okay? Humans can't stand before a holy God because God is holy and perfect, okay? So there isn't everything is divine and everything is energy. That's heresy. There's divine, and then there's humans that are physical and material, and then the bridge between that is Jesus. That is the cross. That is why Jesus had to go to the cross, right? To deal with our sins. And so there's a distinguishment between the divine and the supernatural, the divine, the supernatural, and the human, the flesh, the carnal nature, okay? That is not what they're saying. They're saying the opposite. They're saying it's the same. You, your energy, the plants, the skies, the stars, your emotions, it's all the same. It's not the same. There's a clear distinguishment between divine and human.
Physicists now talk about 13, 14 dimensions of reality. In fact, we operate mostly in 3. But the mind has a capacity to experience much more. When you open your mind and open your heart, the sacred comes to you. You ask.
The sacred, or something else comes to you. May not be the sacred there.
And the energy flows into you.
Again, misuse of the word energy again.
And it changes you. And you work with it. And working with it is casting a spell.
I thought it was you had to find 5
and working with it is casting a spell.
Rare herbs, mix them together in a concoction of your own blood and the blood of some random person, and then you have to mix it up and mash it together, and then you have to drink it 6 times.
Yeah?
So, you know, they're kind of making a caricature out of this whole spell thing.
What would those spells look like? Are you allowed to say, or is that secret?
I'll share it with you.
There's no cameras rolling, so don't worry.
No, that's good. It's all,
just you and me.
I believe you.
I totally turned off the cameras.
And I am very gullible.
Okay,
So let's go.
Good, let's go.
I'm going to ask you to think about prosperity and success. Whatever that looks like for you.
I already got prosperity and success. You see, look around me.
I mean, I see some things that could be
I'm in this
upon.
$7 billion studio with 45 associates who help me at every single moment.
I mean, you've got
couldn't
me
ask for more.
here with you, so that's pretty...
And you are a hefty penny.
I am. So fundamentally what you're going to do.
Notice that this is anchored on prosperity and success, by the way. It's not anchored on like, I want emotional breakthrough, or I have this addiction I'm trying to get through. It's prosperity and success, okay?
Make yourself a little bag. We're going to put some stuff in it.
Okay.
We're going to decide that it's magical.
Okay, so it's a decision. It's an internal
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So here's what we're going to do first. I brought a bunch of little pouches. They're in different colors. And I want you to think, like, if you were going to bring success or prosperity into your life, like, give me a color association.
I am going to go with the green bag. It's got multiple different types.
Money and green is always associated with money and success. Prosperity is always associated with the color green. That's not super deep.
And the fact that it looks handmade, to me, feels like more connection to the earth.
Okay, so now I want to think about these herbs. What might you pick, like, as kind of our base?
I think the base would be spearmint. I feel like this is most associated with taking care of yourself, associated with brushing your teeth and having a minty mouth.
Yeah, your day's going to go
I love it.
You brush your teeth. Okay, so now I want to look at some of these other objects we have here. Some of this was in, like, got a little cuff on my desk with, like, interesting stones.
I see 3 objects
What do
here
you
that I
see?
immediately would be gravitated toward.
What are they?
First off would be this shiny little...
That's pyrite.
It's beautiful. I think the color goes really well with the bag that we have
It's
here.
also called fool's gold. And again, we have that association with wealth, with prosperity.
And then the amethyst, I have a connection with this from when I was younger
Okay.
because I used to like to collect rocks. I was a really cool kid that liked to collect rocks. And then this one here, I think the light traveling through it is really beautiful.
I love that you're putting yourself in there too. The last thing you're going to do...
This whole thing is about self. Self. My prosperity, my blessing, yourself, and the crystals. It's all about the self.
is write what is often called a petition. I'm not going to read it, and you don't have to share it with anybody else.
Okay.
And you don't even have to write words. You can draw a symbol that's important to you. If you've got song lyrics that are meaningful to you, something that just speaks to the
I
prosperity
just draw a big old money sign.
you want to bring into your life.
I drew a waterfall. I feel like it's a reminder to go with the flow and how even when it feels like you are falling, you'll still end up back in the water on your journey, flowing forward.
I like it. Great. And that's what you're doing now.
And should I be popping it in here?
Yeah.
Okay,
And that's
feels good.
yours. And you're going to keep that forever and ever, or until you feel like it's done its job with you, and place it wherever.
And that could have a huge, profound effect on the way that I go about my life. But is it all here?
Even if you finished your spell, whatever it is, and you feel like it hasn't worked, I think that there's still value just in the fact that you performed it at all. If we think that magic is art, then it's equally valuable to sit down and create. And
If you think magic is art, then it's equally valuable to sit down and create. Or you can just sit down and create and not dabble and dip in Wiccan witch spells.
about the outcome. Let's say it is all in my head. Let's say that it's a placebo and I'm casting some kind of spell because like I'm very anxious about a school test or I'm very anxious about whatever. Like just the process of sitting down and going through something like this, I find calms my anxiety.
You know what also can calm your anxiety? Just not doing this. You know, calm your anxiety, just sitting down and relaxing and taking a nap, or sitting down and journaling your thoughts, or sitting down and praying to Jesus, or sitting down and reading the Psalms and the Proverbs, or sitting down and having a great conversation with a friend. There's a variety of things that can calm your thoughts. I don't know why the act of creating objects with curses and spells is something anybody would want to participate in.
Point, who cares?
Who cares if it's a placebo, because placebos work? The belief in something working is enough to make it work sometimes.
And that's something
Sometimes. That's the key word. Sometimes. And other times, it's it's working for other reasons. Okay? And that's the part where I am honestly concerned for Anthony, and we're going to come back to that idea in a second.
that I think makes Wicca weird and why I kind of hesitate around the idea of belief, because to me, belief may not be the most important thing. Sometimes just the doing it is important.
Belief may not be the most important thing. Again, there's no anchoring on any sort of objective reality or truth. It is whatever you want it to be. Even if you don't really believe this stuff, it's just a thing you do, right? And again, it's a minimization of the opposite, which we're going to get to in just a second.
Well, thank you for this, and I will leave it up to my interpretation to see what comes from this.
Magic.
Thank you.
Anthony's
That
a
was
witch
great.
now.
I am a witch. Do you find that people tend to be skeptical when they hear about you being a witch, when they hear about what types of benefits and things this brings you?
So the first reaction satanic. It's just tedious, but as soon as you explain, look, it's an ancestral indigenous wisdom tradition. Totally has nothing to do with any of those stereotypes. Those were visited upon people because of the church, because of its hostility, because it wanted complete political and religious control. I mean,
because of the church's hostility, yet she sounds awfully hostile to the church in even what she's describing right here. So you're hostile towards the church saying you're satanic, yet you're equally hostile towards the church because of the church saying, hey, no, we have the way and the truth and the life, and his name's Jesus.
I try to engage with fundamentalists of various stripes, and generally speaking, it doesn't matter what your faith is. If it's not theirs, they're not listening.
I mean, I've been Wiccan for my entire adult life. I was exploring it as a teenager, and I wasn't raised in a religious household. And when I started, particularly going to college, particularly like in the Southeast, most of the people who I know were raised in some kind of Christian household. And that stuff isn't less weird than what I do. Believing in bodily resurrection is not more reasonable than what you and I just did.
Right.
Like, personally, I just wish.
Believing in the bodily resurrection of Jesus, which I'm going to get to here in a second, isn't less reasonable than looking at a bunch of objects, feeling what the objects are, and projecting those objects. Okay, so this is interesting.
All could appreciate that if it's weird, at least we're all weird.
What I find interesting is that so many religions are accepted as faith in this religion. We should not question it. But with something like Wiccans, people immediately have assumptions about what it means, even if these beliefs have been around for potentially thousands of years, longer than the widespread accepted religions of today.
Now, okay, so here's the thing. This is similar to the bandwagon fallacy, which says that because something is popular, because it's been around for a long time, therefore it has to be true. Christians, on the other hand, believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So it's not that we just believe this is off. We believe anything outside of Jesus is off. We believe any other religion is wrong. Okay, now why? Why is that? Okay, and this is the concern that I have for this. Okay, so again, I said earlier, there's divine and God, and then there's natural and human. Okay, and humans have a soul, humans have emotions, humans are made in the image of God, but humans are not divine. Okay, there's divine and there's human. And then Jesus comes, lives the life we couldn't live, dies the death that we should have died on the cross in our place. Now, when they talk about the resurrection, they say it in a very flippant way, as if like, oh, Christians who believe in the resurrection are just like us playing with these crystals and these things and sage. No. This is what folks are missing about the resurrection. And hear me loud and clear. The resurrection of Jesus is a historical event that secular people will testify that the disciples believed that Jesus literally rose from the grave, meaning the people that walked with him, meaning the people that knew him, meaning his own brother, James, believed that Jesus bodily rose from the grave. And not only did they believe it in a passive way, like you believe chocolate is better than vanilla or cosmopolitan, or no. They believed it to the point where they were willing to die for this belief. Now, some people might die for a stupid belief, a stupid position, not knowing that it's a stupid position. Very few people would be willing to be martyred for something that they know is a lie. And this, friends, is what makes Christianity completely different than anything else out there, because all of the apostles anchored their faith on the bodily resurrection of Jesus. All of the apostles died brutal deaths because of the bodily resurrection of Jesus. And yet the church spread and exploded all over the known world. And then the very people, the very places where it was getting more and more persecuting for Christians, places like Armenia, where the apostle Bartholomew went and the apostle Jude went, okay? Places like Rome, where Paul went, right? The more these places became persecuted, the more Christianity spread there. The more the church flourished and thrived, to the point where Armenia became an official religion, that Armenia became a nation with the official religion being Christianity around the year 300. And there's still the graves of the disciples right now. You can go check out my interview where my brother Arthur talks about going to the grave site of a disciple of Jude, that this tradition was passed down, and it's all anchored on the bodily resurrection of Jesus. And the church preserving 2,000 years, and the scriptures testifying to the bodily resurrection of Jesus. And so if that's true, and I've never had one person try and be willing to disprove the resurrection for me, if that's true, friends, that invalidates everything else. that invalidates every other faith. That invalidates this. And if that invalidates this, that means one of two things. These people are either doing this stuff from their own soul and their own placebo effect, or there's something more sinister at play. There's something darker at play. And if you listen to everything they're saying about the idea of right and wrong, the idea of you being at the center of the universe, the idea of no accountability, the idea of you get to write your own meal ticket, the idea of you get to say whatever you want to do. If you consider all of these different things, it's not unreasonable to say if the resurrection of Jesus is true, then everything else has to submit to that truth, and then has to get filtered through that truth. And so I would challenge Anthony, I would challenge these ladies, go and look at the historical account of the bodily resurrection of Jesus, and then try to disprove it. Because if that's proven true, then everything else must submit to the feet of Jesus. Everything else must consistently be submitted to that, and anything else outside of that, friends, is a lie. It's a counterfeit. It's not true. And so, Anthony opening up himself to all these different rituals, all these I wouldn't be playing with this stuff. This ain't stuff you play with. This isn't stuff you dabble with. Ouija boards and crystals and, casting spells, and this is some serious stuff. I wouldn't be playing with this. So anyway, those are my thoughts on this thing. If you guys want to see my original video reacting to Anthony Padilla's interview with Ryan Trahan, you could check that out here. If you guys want to see why the entire New Age is completely nonsensical and completely misrepresents things like quantum physics, I'll pin that up over here. I'll see you guys over there. Peace.